Welcome back to the show. Our next guest is Senator Michael Testa Jr., serving the 1st Legislative District of New Jersey. Senator Testa, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Listen, so glad that you're coming out. I know you're a busy guy, family, all that good stuff happening. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, because we do like to eat, let's talk a little bit about Michael Testa, where it came from, and where we're at now, and the passion for what you're doing, public service.
Sure. So, I graduated Vineland High School in 1994, and I went to Villanova University. Then I went to Villanova Law School, and my grandfather was still alive then, and he was the first elected mayor of the city of Vineland. So public service is in my blood somewhat. And he always told me when I was growing up, he said, Mikey, you got to give back to the city that made our family. And that really stuck with me. So when I started out as a young lawyer, I got on the board of the Vineland Downtown Improvement District just to help out the downtown of the city of Vineland. Then I really got involved in Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Cumberland and Salem County, and I got involved in the Cumberland County Republican Organization. That's how I got involved in politics, really behind the scenes. I was always told it's better to be the kingmaker than the king. And I never thought I'd run for public office. I always thought I just would help out the organization. And then in late 2018, I was asked by then Senate Minority Leader Tom Kean Jr., who my family has somewhat of a connection with going back to Governor Kean's days when my dad was the Cumberland County chairman for Governor Kean's reelection campaign in 1985. I was a young boy at the time. When Senator Kean gave me a call and said, you ought to think about running for the state Senate. And I thought about it for about 30 seconds and said yes. And here I am. In November of 2019, I won an election along with two great gentlemen, Assemblyman Antoine McClellan and Assemblyman Eric Simonson, two great guys.
Yeah, and some of the names you just mentioned there, two great guys, like you said. Simonson, nice wrestling background as well, which is near and dear to my heart. And then when you talk Vineland's always with that. I grew up on the west end of the county in Hamilton, Mullica Township area, and lots of friends out that way. So
sure.
Listen, when you talk about that, Senator, as well, and I just want to touch him, we're sitting here, Stockton University, a lot of students taking classes in our, what you're talking about, public service and whatnot. I think it's so important. At one time, my father was old school, sort of like when the politicians or folks were coming around in August and September and October, knocking on the door, kid, this. And I was like, Pop, why are you doing it? As a young guy, I was like, well, why are you doing it? You got to be able to talk to these folks. They're the ones that, help you with your taxes, get the lights fixed, the streets, and whatever it may be. He didn't want us to, let them go. We'll vote in November and whatnot. But it came to a point where I realized as a teenager, Senator, that going to these meetings, whether it was a council meeting or whatever it may be, an association, when the folks, the men and women that were serving the community were there, I may not always got the answer of the person during the public portion that we wanted, but someone always came up and said, listen, here's my number, let's talk about it. And I want to encourage people to do that in our little platform we have here too, to get involved. You don't necessarily have to run meetings, showing up.
I want people to be involved whether they're on my side of the aisle, which is preferable, or on the other side of the aisle, to be quite honest with you. It means that they're involved in a civic association or involved in what's going on. So many people, go through life and they're not necessarily informed of what's going on in their backyard. And, Tip O'Neill said all politics are local. So I encourage everybody to really get involved in their backyard first. One of the things that I don't necessarily appreciate is when someone is telling me how to do my job and I know that they're really not involved at all at any level. If someone is involved, whether it's at a neighborhood organization, a city organization, a county organization, then I know they have what we all call skin in the game, right? If someone has skin in the game, then guess what? They've invested their time, their energy, their blood, sweat, tears, maybe even hard-earned dollars, then guess what? They have their voices going to be heard. Everyone's voice is heard, but those folks really can step up to the plate and you give them a lot of credence for sure.
It's like anything, Senator Testa, show up. You know what I mean? Whatever it be if you're running or if you're just being a good citizen in the community. Listen,
so hold on one second. Yeah. You just said something about showing up. Yeah. I have a statement. I said you got to get up, you got to show up, and you got to speak up. And if you don't do those three things, guess what? You could have the smartest voice in the world. If you're on your couch or in your basement on your laptop, it doesn't matter. We need to be able to hear your voice. I want people's input. I want people to tell me, hey, I thought what you did there was a good thing. I also want constructive criticism. Hey, you know what? This isn't the way I would have done it. Maybe you should have gone in this direction. I appreciate that from people.
No, and I hear you, and I'm going to laugh a little bit about this, but it's serious when we're saying this. I live on the boardwalk out in Atlantic City. I have the same crews I see as I go ride my bike or take a walk, sitting on the benches, doing their thing. I'm like, I'm not going to sit there because all they're good. But I keep trying to tell these gentlemen, some of the folks, come to the meeting. Just come with me, and then you'll be able to voice yourself. So love it. I stamp it.
Look, in Atlantic City has some struggles, right? So imagine if everybody who had all of the solutions, as I always say, the smartest individuals in the state of New Jersey are at a counter at a diner solving all of the world's problems, right? Imagine if they left and came with those solutions and had their voices heard. We'd all be pulling in the same direction a little bit better. We'd all know who each other is. You know those individuals who are on those benches who would probably have all of the world's solutions from that bench, but if it never leaves the bench, how's it helping the city?
Love it. It's exactly right. You put it right on point. So, hey, let's jump into some of this information we have here. Jersey comes first. Let's talk about that a little bit, what your platform is.
Sure. So, in 2017, when Governor Murphy was running for office, he talked about making New Jersey a sanctuary state. And I was at the facility where he announced that. It was at the debate that he had with then Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, and it was met with a standing ovation. And I looked around and I thought I was in, bizarro world at the time. And I said, that's not a good idea to make New Jersey a sanctuary state. And I told people back then, and I hate to be in this position of saying, I told you so. New Jersey is now a border state. We are suffering a lot of the ills of being a sanctuary state. We have become a magnet for illegal aliens, which puts a strain on our infrastructure, whether it's our schools, whether it's our healthcare system, it's our police and fire, our ambulance system. We have to be mindful of the citizens. I've often talked about the American Express card commercial of the 1980s, saying membership has its privileges. So should citizenship. Citizenship should absolutely have its privileges. And I can tell you to a T, whether a person has an R next to their name, a D next to their name, or is an independent, every single person is complaining about the border issues that we are facing in the United States of America. And you might say, hey, how is that affecting New Jersey? Well, how is fentanyl, which is coming across our border, affecting each and every one of our lives and our families? We all have a family member or a friend who is going through substance use disorder. That's a very real issue. So I think it's time that we put New Jersey first and place the citizens, the hardworking, tax-paying, employed citizens of the state of New Jersey first.
I mean, I hear what you're saying.
Pretty simple.
We live here, right, and this is what we love, and the reason why we're here as a Jersey citizen. I mean, we may complain, but we do stay, and majority of the people that I know that move away, they usually come back for some reason or another.
Usually the food, which we've talked about a lot, by the way.
Yes, we're going to talk more about that off air, too, about the food. How do we protect our homes? There's a problem, I know, in my town in which I live with squatters and whatnot. And I know that you're on the forefront of this. I mean, I have a friend who had to go through 6 months to have someone removed that didn't belong in that house. And I just scratched my head in disbelief.
Well, so what your friend went through was the civil court system. What Senator Steinhardt, who is the prime sponsor, I'm the co-prime sponsor of a squatters bill, an anti-squatters bill, would make it a criminal matter. So this way it would be much easier for someone who either owns the home or is, the landlord of a home or apartment or condominium to have those individuals charged criminally and removed. I actually had this in my law office a number of years ago. Someone was a good Samaritan and let someone come into their home who then wouldn't leave. It took that individual 7 months to have a person who had absolutely no rights to her home, was not on the lease, was not renting, wasn't a paramour or anything else, a loved one of the individual who owned the home. It took her 7 months to have this individual leave who had absolutely zero rights because they had to go through the civil court system. And in New York, what we've seen is an atrocity. And we've all seen that one video of that illegal alien, by the way, coaching individuals to come into other people's homes so that they could have squatters' rights, which is extremely dangerous leads to lawlessness. We need to respect law and order in the United States and in the state of New Jersey. And that's why Senator Steinhardt and I are at the forefront of that issue.
Listen, when you talk about bizarre worlds that we even have to go through something like that, or someone who owns a landlord or whatnot, and we'll talk more about that down the road when we get back on the radio show as well. Manufacturing. Apprenticeship. I mean, were one of the biggest manufacturers around. Talk to us about that, please.
So when I ran in 2019, I always think of that one sign on the Trenton Bridge that says, "Trenton makes and the world takes." I really want to make that mean something again. And myself and, on a bipartisan effort, it's bipartisan and bicameral, we have the manufacturing caucus. And Senator Greenstein, Linda Greenstein, is my co-chair of the manufacturing caucus. We're doing our very best to bring manufacturing back to the state of New Jersey, and not only for the manufacturers that we want to attract to the state of New Jersey, but to allow the manufacturers that are here to not just merely survive, but to thrive. What's amazing is how much Trenton actually does make, and so many people don't realize that. And these manufacturers are incredible innovators, captains of industry, and employers, by the way, which is really important. They're not highlighted enough, and they're totally outside the realm of the political world until a new ridiculous regulation or tax hits them and they say, wait a minute, what happened here? And then we get the phone call. I want to prevent that from happening. I want to be able to highlight the manufacturing industry in the state of New Jersey, how they are good employers, how it's not what you think of as a dirty, filthy factory, which you're breathing in unclean air. It's amazing when you go to the modern manufacturing facility and see it doesn't look anything like what you believe a traditional factory is, and it's a great place of employment, and it's not merely a job, it's a career for advancement. And when they're partnered with our local community colleges, these individuals can rise up in the company and get stackable credentials at a local college where they're not incurring a ton of debt, what we all know of, so we don't have to get into that ridiculous argument about forgiving college debt.
Right, yes, that's another thing we'll talk about. Now here we are, we only got about 2 minutes left, and I want to get these, and these are two big points here, transportation and budget. So if you can maneuver those the two ways.
Sure, so New Jersey Transit just came before the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee, of which I'm a member, and I've been on for now 5 years, if you can believe that. And I call it North Jersey Transit. We have such an issue right now, and look, you live in Atlantic City, what should be a thriving hub of tourism and the gaming industry. Vineland, New Jersey, where I'm from, has a number of individuals who could be gainfully employed in Atlantic City if they could get there. We need better transportation around southern New Jersey, but specifically into your town of Atlantic City. People don't realize even those jobs that are housekeeping are fantastic careers that don't end there, but they come with fantastic benefits for the individual that's working and their families. It would be wonderful if I could transport the individuals that live in the city of Vineland, New Jersey, to your city of Atlantic City and be gainfully employed with great benefits for them and their families, union benefits, as we know, and they could help rise up in the company and have a career, not just a dead-end job.
No, and I hear you. Listen, that would be a fantastic thing. It's one of the things that I always have scratched my head about, whether it's the airport, transportation to Atlantic City, or just what you were talking about, Senator Testa. Listen, we definitely have to have you back here in the fall when the students come back, and we're going to take the whole show and talk about it. Tell folks where they can find you in your office to let them know if there's anything that they need to get in touch with you with.
Certainly, I know your crew's going to put my number and all of the information on how to contact me. Never hesitate to reach out to me, whether you live in my legislative district or don't. If there's an issue that you have, whether it's with manufacturing caucus, the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee. I also sit on judiciary, so for those lawyers out there that are maybe looking to put on a robe one day, they can contact me as well. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody, and I mean that. Anybody that wants to come talk to me about what's happening, especially in Legislative District 1, but throughout South Jersey. Us South Jersey legislators on both sides of the aisle, I have to say, really stick together and fight for South Jersey because we feel like we're left out under the Gold Dome.
And you know what, we are, though. And thanks again to Senator Michael Testa, New Jersey's first legislative district, for joining us on today's show. Folks, stick around. We'll be right back. Senator Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.